we have Christina Adams right here. As I was saying, she's an amazing author and an amazing autism mom. She is the author of the book that changed my world. It's called A Real Boy. If you haven't read it yet, you need to. We're all waiting for Christina to write her next book because it was a game changer, not just for me, but for a lot of people. It's a real boy. But on her journey, Christina has found many things, including camel milk. It's been something that she's been very interested in, and whenever anything comes up to do with camel milk, she is the expert that we go to. And yesterday, you know, on the show, Nancy Alspaugh Jackson and I discussed a new news story in which the headline said that a boy was hospitalized for doing supplements having to do with autism, and it listed among them camel milk and silver. And then in the depth of the article, it lists many more things. But we said yesterday that we were going to have Christina on today to talk about it. So Christina, this headline's a little bit on the crazy side for me, and we want to hear from you what your thoughts, because I know you've got some expertise and some doctors to back up your expertise.
I do, Shannon, and thanks for having me on the show today. I love being on Autism Live. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm glad you set that up by doing a little discussion yesterday, because I was hard at work trying to figure out what lies behind this kind of shrieking headline. Here's just one example. Deadly risk of autism, of alternative therapies for children, all over the British papers especially. So when I saw that, I was like, let's find out what's going on here. So I have been able to get information dealing with 4 doctors from 3 different countries. So I'd like to think it's pretty comprehensive. So let's take a little step back. So there's a case report that came out in Medical Journal, and here it is. The title is Severe Hypercalcemia in a Child Secondary to Use of Alternative Therapies. So basically there was a 4-year-old boy. All he had as a medical history was autism spectrum, and he was taken to the emergency room in London, apparently, and he was vomiting, he had weight loss, loss of appetite, and a couple of other problems, and his calcium level was very high. So they had to do a lot of things to get him better, and hats off to the doctor that they did. So they had determined, after he'd been treated for a while, that he was taking about 12 different supplements, as they called them. There was a naturopath in England that had been prescribing them. This was vitamin D, calcium, cod liver oil, silver, BioCare, liposome, whatever that is. I'm sure someone watching knows. Alturas, bromelain, zinc, trace minerals, Epsom salt baths, AFP, peptides, and sodium chloride. Now, some of those, according to one of my doctor acquaintances, are enzymes that can be pretty strong. However, they didn't really know what else could be happening other than the supplements. And again, these are your more mainstream kind of medical doctors, so they were not naturopaths. They did check out a lot of things. They did rule out a lot of things, and they determined, well, we really don't know why this child is having such a high calcium intake that it's making him sick. So they were able to take off the supplements and do different things, and he got better, and he has not had a problem since, I'm told. But one of the things that bothered me was just labeling all supplements as, potentially dangerous, and also throwing camel milk on there. I was like, wait a minute, camel milk is a food. It's been used for thousands of years. People live off of it. So let's not be throwing that just willy-nilly into this mix. So anyway, Shannon and I have been able to talk to a few doctors about this. So what do you think we'd like to do? Should we go ahead and tell you what their opinion is?
We would love to hear what their opinion is, because I think it's really important when people start lumping things together. For me, this was as crazy as if your child suddenly started vomiting and the headline in the newspaper said this child was eating toast.
To me, it was like, someone gets violently sick from bread and cheese from the supermarket. Now, if there was a poison thing behind it, then yeah. But honestly, that's like a food product.
Exactly.
I said the first thing is, this is camel milk is a food, but these other things, let's find out what's going on with this case, because it didn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely. So let's hear about what your doctor said. Yeah. Let's hear.
So talking to these different doctors, and we had 4 doctors from 3 different countries. So first of all, I started by writing to the doctor that actually wrote this case report, Dr. Boyd, and I'm really thankful to her for corresponding with me. And she also had said that it seems like they don't really know why this happened. It's kind of unusual. He didn't have a lot of underlying conditions that might have made him more prone to hypercalcemia. And interestingly, Williams syndrome can be one of those. That's a genetic disorder, and also malignancies, but he did not have lymphoma, things like that. So they pretty much feel that it's because the calcium supplements or the D supplements, something like that, may have actually not been properly bought and used. The vitamin D supplement was bought online, and it maybe was not the correct concentration, or something about his individual body was secondary, because of the combination of calcium and D products. So they don't know. Maybe he was getting more D than he was supposed to get, because the D that the naturopath had described falls well within the parameters of safety. But being bought online, you can't know exactly what was in the supplement. You can't know if it was calculated incorrectly.
Absolutely.
So it's still kind of a mystery.
We had a huge case here in the United States where there were mainstream children's medications that people were giving to their children, and they found out that the way that it was dosed was improper, and they were getting, in some cases, 1,000 times the dose that they were supposed to get. And it's part of the reason why all those medications were pulled off the market very quickly. So that could be the case. Okay, continue on.
Now, I want to mention a really good analysis. This was done by Dr. Scott Clack, who's in Ontario, Canada. He's a naturopath. And by the way, I've learned that in Canada and the U.S., naturopaths, NDs, they get a lot more training than they may do in perhaps England. Okay. So that's what I'm told here. So don't throw me under the bus, English naturopaths. I'm sure you're wonderful, but I guess the naturopaths feel they get more training in the U.S. and Canada. Okay. So Dr. Scott Clack says that those levels were extremely high of vitamin D, but even then you have to dose very, very high for a very long time to get those levels. And so that is highly unusual. There's some kind of a connection that, D, the vitamin D, can help link to and cause hypercalcemia, and it fits this case, but the doses that were reported in the case just don't fit. So he wonders if there may have been more calcium supplementation than was reported. They just don't know if all the right details were given. But at any rate, Dr. Clack also backs up the fact that camel milk is safe and effective for children, and it does have a good contribution of calcium. So, the thing to remember is that we always have to look at what we're doing and do it carefully, and there should be some medical supervision.
So I just was driving home the point, Christina, that camel milk is safe. People have been using it for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and like anything else, you need to use all food products in moderation, or they can throw things off. I was saying you can eat too much kale and have a problem, but in this instance, there's nothing to point to that the child had too much camel milk, or that the camel milk was what was causing him to be sick, lose weight, throw up, or have these elevated levels of calcium.
No, there is not. And I would like to point out, I was speaking at a neuroscience conference on autism about 2 weeks ago, and I presented on camel milk and autism. And the fact is, there have been 2 new medical journal articles, one indicating that camel milk is safe for children, the other that it is safe and effective in a variety of disease areas, which is what we've been saying for a while, but it's nice to actually have that in the medical literature now.
Absolutely. And where can people go to find that article?
Well, I could certainly post it on my Facebook page, which is Christina Adams, Autism Author Advocate, and I can also I can tweet it, which is Twitter @CamelMilkInfo, and then also if you want to do your own searching in PubMed, please feel free to go ahead. Just type in PubMed camel milk autism safe.
There you go. Okay, we were going to take a short break, but I think let's stay with you. But I want to pivot now to, since we've got you here, And we're getting ready at Autism Live to debut a new segment with you in the coming months where you're going to be talking on a wide variety of topics for us, and including talking about biomedical and giving your advice as a mother who has been there and done that, but also as an expert who's been traveling the world meeting with different autism parents and with different autism experts. The segment is going to be called Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams, and we're really proud that we have the opportunity to do this with you. But since we've got you here, let's give people just a soupçon of what we're going to be covering. Talk to us. For parents who are thinking about doing biomedical or just starting out and they saw this article, they might be a little bit concerned. Give us your best advice, Christina, about doing biomedical interventions.
Well, I've always said, and I've always approached it this way myself, that you need to go slow, you need to have some good observation systems in place, and there needs to be some medical supervision. I have carried out things that way myself and my son. He's never suffered anything that was irreversible or anything like that. Sure, like everything else, we had a couple things that, seemed to kind of not be good for him over a few days, but then you're able to stop those, whatever they are. And one of them has been pharmaceutical medication. So, all of these things can cause their issues. So generally, though, this has been a very, very safe use in autistic kids of complementary and alternative medicine. It's amazing, generally, considering the population and the lack of medical supervision, how safe it's been. So what I like to say is start slow, start generally one intervention at a time. I want you to think like a scientist. That's what they do. They take a setting, they change one thing, and they observe and they get data to see what happens. So that's why I like to see if the child is in a program, find out what the teachers are saying, the aides are saying, maybe the babysitter is saying, and don't tell them what you're trying. So it's better that way that they're not prejudiced if they're going to give you an idea of what they think. So I say start with the cheapest and cheapest and safest. I actually published an article about this a couple of years ago. Here it is. It's called Biomed Battles. I really know, of course, how tough these things can be between parents. It's not easy to agree on these things when there's no real protocol out there in the mainstream, even though the doctors, of course, that treat autism have one. So start slow and pick one thing first. So I like to say get a business calendar. A dad or a mom who's financially minded or business minded, they know that we divide the year into 4 quarters. So for each quarter, 3 months, that's a pretty decent length of time to try an intervention. So I say sit down, make a calendar, and so the first intervention should be the cheapest and the safest. So I say make your top 10 list. And then diet would come before meds because that's cheaper and it's safer. Then we say perhaps a supplement would come before. You might try something like, chelation, which I never did, but some people do, or hyperbaric, which I never did, some people do. Or now, of course, people are looking at stem cells. So that's a very, very, medicalized step. So do your slow and low things first. Give it 3 months for each one. Stop it if it seems to be causing problems. Both parents have to uphold this and get a doctor to be supervising you and doing tests. Like in the case we just talked about, I would not give vitamins unless I knew there was a blood test that had showed there's a deficiency in my child. So that's the way to do it. Now, these autism doctors can cost a lot. So you might try to apply to them to see what kind of scholarships you can get. You might also try to recruit doctors that that have been treating your family and see if they'd be willing to at least do a lot of the tests and some interpretation that would be covered by insurance.
Love all of that advice, Christina. You make it all really sensible. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so thrilled that we're going to be doing this segment with you, Autism and Beyond with Christina Adams. You are a delight and a treat, and I really want to encourage people, read the book, A Real Boy. It will open your eyes to a lot of things, and you'll love it, because then when you get to see Christina's segments, it'll be even that much more special for you.